What is up, Steeler fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Steelers Preview. I am Jeff Hartman, joined by the triumphant trio, Dave Schofield and Bryan Davis. What's up, Dave? How's it going?
It's going. Beautiful day. Can't complain. Week from the draft. Let's do it.
Absolutely. Bryan Davis, what's up?
To quote the great Razor Ramon, or you might know him as Scott Hall, hey, yo.
I always think of oozing with machismo.
Oozing with machismo. The bad guy.
Flick the toothpick, yeah. While we wait for some people that are watching live, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, to join us, good time. Bryan, I'll throw it over to you and give everyone ideas to what's coming up next week. Altered schedule a little bit with the NFL draft being Thursday night. Let everyone know what to expect on the podcast side.
All right, so I don't know exactly what we're doing, but I'll tell you what we normally do and what we will continue to do. So Dave Schofield, I would assume, is going to, as soon as that draft pick is made, maybe about 5 minutes, then Dave's going to bust out with breaking news telling you about the show. About the pick. And we're going to talk about that pick, where it came from, and he's going to remind you to stick with Steel Curtain Network for all information about this pick and more all draft long. And that's what we're going to be going on there. And that will be happening almost after every pick, unless they have one really close together. And that's a situation where they do.
Yeah.
So we will have that spread out. We will also, I believe that we will have not after every draft pick, but after every night of the draft, we will have our wrap-up preview show.
Right. Yeah. So every day we'll have a day-long wrap, at least round one and day one and day two. I don't know if we did day three last year or not. Did we?
We wrapped
three of us.
Yes, we always wrap up the draft on day
weekend.
3. Yes.
Okay.
But we're not
because I think last year we got a bunch of undrafted free agents announced while we were doing the show.
I think you're right. Yeah, I'm going to make an executive decision, and I think that we should instead of doing our Zoom call, I think we should do a live stream.
So that's what I was going to ask you about next.
Yeah,
I think we should like discussing it for everybody.
Hey, so that way I can ruin the picks for everyone. So I can just look at my phone and say, yeah, they're taking this person. Oh, I hear it on my TV.
No, I'm a team player.
You don't have to be there. You can hey, we'll offer it up to anyone that would want to attend the live stream as a part of the Steel Curtain Network. I think we can have upwards of 10 people on the screen at once, but all the people in the live chat can be watching the draft with us. At least we're probably going to do round one. And then after that, after the pick is made for the Steelers, we'll have to cut that stream. And that's when we'll obviously be coming back on to talk about the pick. But so that'll be Thursday. So that'll be in lieu of the Steelers preview. We'll have a lot of stuff going on. This is exciting. I think this is a good deal.
Jeff, if you don't mind me making an executive decision, since we don't have super chats now, if you would like to give us a $10,000 donation as well with us.
$10,000.
I think that it would be awesome to have a watch party in person, like to find a Permane Brothers or something that's, some type of central location. I know we have one here in Western Maryland.
About that in 2020 when the Steelers didn't have a first round pick, because then we wouldn't have to work. But then it ended up being 2020.
Yes.
So you know what
happened then?
I will have that for 2025 because I have some people that are actually interested in something like that.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. And hell, 2026, it could be in Pittsburgh. Because remember, the Pittsburgh's trying to get the draft in 2026 or 2027, in which case we would just go to Pittsburgh. Let's just go to Pittsburgh and we'll find a spot and we'll get ourselves a big old banner and we'll sit there and we'll have a grand old time. That'd be fun. So I don't know if that's big enough, but we'll get something.
We'll sew all three of them together. We each have one.
There you go. Yeah, for sure. So, but still, I'm excited for that. We always do the Zoom call and people are kind of in and out. It's going to be the same setup for our staff. If you got to step aside, you can always remove yourself from the chat or whatever. But I think it's just going to be a lot of fun for people that want to watch the draft with us, hear the commentary. It'll be recording, Bryan, so you don't have to worry about hitting record or anything like that in case you want to get some great sound of Jeff Hartman responding to a draft pick like we did in 2022 when Kenny Pickett was drafted.
Or the great Andrew Wilbar debacle of 2022.
That was not on the Zoom call. That was not on the Zoom call.
Because he's like Bryan and wanted to hear it on TV, and he wanted to get his reaction, and
I enjoy it, but it's a bigger purpose now.
Yeah, we talk about the Andrew thing. It's kind of legendary. No one has seen it outside of us, I don't think. So
I wish I could get a hold of that video, because that would probably go viral. And maybe he's justified because that pick did not work out completely.
Well, it would have worked out. That would have probably been even worse if it would have gone where he wanted to go. So
he wanted Malik Willis.
Brian's going to butterfly effect.
Well, no, I was just going to say something else. I was going to go back to the whole live draft party. I was actually on a live draft party last year with Dome Patrol from the Fans First Sports Network. I know you've heard of those folks. It was just for like the first part. It was a blast though. Those guys were having a whole lot of fun, and I think if you want to look tear the fourth wall and see exactly what we talk about, it's going to be uncut. Not that nobody's swearing or anything like that, but it's just like, it's going to be us talking about strategy, what we're going to be doing. You're going to be a fly on the wall.
Exactly.
So I have to keep the salty language to a minimum.
Yeah, because Dave's a sailor.
Dave's the one.
Son of a nutcracker.
Or when Dave says, I almost said the S word. Oh my gosh, the S word? Are you serious? Oh man.
Dave once said gee whiz, and I was like, oh my goodness.
You must have been pretty peeved, man. All right, enough of this stuff. Let's get everyone's chiming in. We have 130 people watching concurrently right now, so let's get the show on the road. Let's talk about the Steelers, and let's talk about something. Brian Davis did not join us for the breaking news, sourced news, as we called it, podcast, which I did put on our YouTube channel today, Thursday at 2 p.m. So if you caught it there, or if you caught it on the audio side Wednesday evening, it was all about how you can expect the unexpected with the Pittsburgh Steelers in this upcoming draft. Brian, I'm sure you listened and or watched. What are your thoughts about that information we received?
I absolutely did listen last night. I did not watch because you two are burnt into my retinas already. I've seen you so much for the last 5-6 years.
It was audio only, wasn't it, Jeff? Oh, you did put it out on YouTube.
I put it on YouTube today at 2 p.m.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
No, so I think that's great information, and I'm now, after listening to that, I'm thoroughly convinced that this team is trading up. So I mean, I hope that I'm not I hope that I'm not ruining the rest of the show, but I really think that's going to happen because I believe in that source. In fact, I talked to the source on the phone today, and he was like, "Hey, have you noticed I've given Jeff a whole lot of stuff lately?" I'm like, yeah, I know it's a big deal when you call. Plus, I've been on those shows, most of those shows with Jeff, and last night Dave did it.
We were trying to give you a break there, man.
Yeah, no problem. I think
you had a rough day.
I did have a rough day. Yeah. That's right. But no, I think it is a new scenario now for the Pittsburgh Steelers that you almost have to expect the unexpected, because if it goes Colbert style or Donahoe style or anything like that, you're going to be disappointed because you're starting to get used to Omar Khan throwing in swerves here and there. And if he doesn't, you're going to be let down, I think, now.
Okay, I have a couple questions for you guys. And we are going to talk draft scenarios in this podcast today. And so we'll get to that, but I have a couple over-unders for you guys right now. Okay. So first and foremost, the Steelers have a pick in round 1. They have a pick in round 2, and they have 2 in round 3. Now, I asked these questions to Jeremy Jerome Betts on my Let's Ride podcast, so you'll hear that tomorrow on the audio side. But do you think, when all is said and done, the Steelers actually get 4 players in rounds 1, 2, and 3 in this year's draft? Ooh. Dave, what do you think?
I'll tell you this: if you give me the option of 4 or not 4, I'm taking not 4 because I think they'll either use one of their 3s to move up, or they're going to drop down and maybe pick up another one. Okay. I think it's more likely that they move in the first round than it is that they don't move. Because Bryan was saying, "Oh, I'm convinced now that they're moving up." To me, I always thought a move up was less likely, and what was more likely was stay put or move back. Now I'm kind of looking at all 3 of them kind of being equal. So therefore, I think the chance of there being a move is, Omar Khan, he doesn't sit back. He's wheeling and dealing. So I think it's more likely that they move something. So I'll tell you this: I would be shocked if after day 2 the Steelers drafted 4 players and in the slots that they are designated right now. I would bet heavily against that.
Well, and notice I didn't say, when I posed the question, I didn't say that the Steelers had 4 picks at those positions of where they're drafting, the slotted positions already. Just, do you think they're going to have 4 players selected in rounds 1 through 3? Bryan, what do you think?
Yes, they are going to have 4 selected there. Even if they trade up, they're going to pull a 2023, just like they did last year, and they're going to recoup that pick and get, like they got Darnell Washington, because they made that I believe was in the 3rd round. They traded down with Carolina, maybe about 6 or 7 slots, and still got their guy. So I
was going to say, technically, they got Nick Herbig because that's where they didn't have a pick. That was the pick they picked up. So, yeah, but you're right. I still think they made that trade, Bryan. You're right. They were willing to not take Washington. I think they had taken Herbig with where they moved back, and yet they still got Washington and Herbig anyway. It was brilliant. You're right.
So, yeah, they will recoup. So everybody that's worried about them trading up, they're going to recoup it.
All right. Now, the next is over-under. Over-under 2.5. 2.5's the line, and that is total trades by the Steelers throughout 3 days and 7 rounds of this draft process. Over-under, Dave. What do you think?
Thank you for setting the line there. At 2.5, I'll take the under.
Okay. You think 2? You thinking 2?
I think 2. Yeah.
Okay. Bryan?
I was going to go ahead and take the under, but since we're not being scored on it, I really think 2, but we're not being scored on it. So I'll take the over, because you never know. I was listening to one of our shows on the Steel Curtain Network. It was another Steelers show. I think it was the Afternoon Drive. And they were talking about how the 6th round, like 6th round and after, there's not a lot. It's very deep in the first 5 rounds. And they're like 6th and 7th round. I mean, it's not a big deal. And I was thinking about that, and I could see them, dangling one of those 6th round picks to get back up to number 5 too. So let's go 3.
If you do both of them.
Let's go 3. Yeah.
So the thing is that when you talk about the Steelers draft picks, they have 7 total picks, but I feel like those 6 rounders are just going to burn a hole in their pocket. They're going to say, let's use them. Let's use them to move. Let's get back up into the 5th. Maybe they look at, because they did trade, I believe the only compensation that they've gotten rid of in 2025 is that conditional 6th round pick for Justin Fields, which could turn into a 4th based on overall playing time. So they still have their full allotment of draft capital in 2025. So they could dip into future waters if they wanted. Dave, what do you want to say?
Guys, I was just going to say this. Don't be looking at the live chat right now, because they're going to basically ruin the whole thing that we're doing for us the show. So just telling you that now.
Okay.
So
I'm turning it off.
So hold off on that now.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, I think they're going to be active. I think that just because people, again, Omar Khan has this reputation of being aggressive. I don't know if he necessarily is aggressive. If anything, if I were to pick an adjective to describe Omar Khan, it would actually be patient. He has shown that he is more willing to be patient at times and say, think about the trade market for Justin Fields. Yeah, okay, we are interested in this guy maybe, but the asking price is way too much. So then Kenny Pickett gets dealt. All of a sudden, the asking price gets moved. He waits. Be patient. Joey Porter Jr., they easily could have traded their pick at 32. Instead, no, I'm going to be patient, but they took their guy. I think sometimes, yes, he can be aggressive in some standards. I think patient is a great way to describe Omar Khan. And so if he doesn't see a player that they covet as wow, we can't miss this guy, I think they stay put at 20, or maybe even they trade back. I know that I feel like the Buffalo Bills at 28 are the perfect trade partner. The Steelers could still probably get an interior offensive lineman that they want, and they could probably even recoup a second-round pick or something of that nature. Dave, what do you want to say?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say on Scobro, we traded back one more spot to the Lions, the 29th pick, and got an additional second-round pick. And that
for
was
one spot?
No,
for the 29.
One more spot
okay.
in the Bills. So we went all the way back to 29. So we could trade it. And pick up a center there. And we still didn't draft a center there because DeJean was still there. And we ended up going with that. But go back, check out that show if you want to know what that is. You said patient for Omar Khan. I'm going opportunistic.
I think that's a good one.
Because I think that also takes what he does, the patience of what he does, and the whole idea that he's patient, but when it's time to pounce, he pounces. But that's a really good way to think about it, is he doesn't have to jump in and do it right now. And honestly, I saw it earlier in the live chat tonight. Corey Eckenroth, one of our writers, said, "Oh, the Steelers can't trade up; they have too many holes to fill with this draft." You want to know what? Even in free agency, Omar Khan is being opportunistic. Just think of the players that he has added in June or later in his 2 off seasons when he first took over after the draft 2 years ago. I mean, that's when they brought in Larry Ogunjobi. Last year it was Quan Alexander. They've added people later. I still think that some of those he hasn't made the moves on yet because he thinks that they have opportunities to do it at a later time. So don't be shocked if they don't fill every hole in the draft, because I don't think he panics like Steelers Nation would be panicking.
Bryan, do you have a word that would describe Omar?
I was going to say opportunistic, but I'm going to change that. I'm going to use 2. He's suave and adaptive. So he's suave because I picture Omar Khan. If you're listening to this right now, you're not going to see what I'm doing, but I have my arms crossed and I'm leaning back, and that is I picture him just like the Dos Equis guy, the most interesting guy in the world, just in the corner, just like this, just waiting. And when everybody's at the auction going up $5, he just ends it. He's the closer. He'll just say, "All right, 500, boom." You know, they're at like $12, and he'll say 500 because that's what he knows. That's still a bargain. He'll just crack it down, and everybody in the crowd just goes, "Oh," and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm Omar." Yeah, I could see that happening. I could see him just like waiting. You've heard me say this a lot on my shows. Nope, everyone knows the couch cushion thing, but nobody lies in wait like Omar Khan. He is the best waiter. So when you say patient, but he hides and lies in wait. It's like he's like Bill Murray in Caddyshack with all the camouflage and just waiting to pounce. That's opportunistic too. That's a little bit of everything that you guys are saying.
Is he throwing detonators in gopher holes and biting the heads off of the little bees? And
yeah, he is. He's biting the heads. You know who he's biting the heads off? The dumb general managers, the teams that
just Chicago.
Chicago, the New York Jets, though. You know, I mean, just the teams. This is something. There are teams out there that don't get it right, and the reason they never get it right because they'll go for who everyone thinks is a big fish and not the piece of the puzzle. They don't look big picture. They just think they go for that big splash. But man, nobody makes waves for like 26 miles like this guy.
Yeah, I'll say this, and this comes from our source, who, again, I trust him wholeheartedly when it comes to this information. This front office is not just Omar Khan. Like, we talk about, superlatives and ways to describe Omar Khan, and he deserves credit. It is still Mike Tomlin's team. Andy Weidel has his fingerprints all over this as well. Sheldon White and all the scouts and all the personnel department, and Art Rooney II, while he might have given these coaches and front office personnel a little bit longer of a leash, he's still involved. It is still his team. It's still the Rooney's football team. I just like what the entire front office has done. I think that, a lot of people, they've gutted this roster in a lot of ways this offseason. It's only time will tell if it's going to pay off, and it's going to be a very important NFL draft coming up next Thursday. And we are going to talk about scenarios for that draft when we come back after this break. If you're watching live on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, we're not going anywhere. For those on the audio side, we'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. All right, Steeler fans, welcome back. Again, the title of this podcast is Talking 2024 NFL Draft Scenarios. We need to talk about a lot of scenarios, and I try to run through these in mental processes as I think about, okay, what could happen? Well, why does it matter? Well, if you're covering the team in any capacity, you need to kind of be prepared what could happen. So Dave Schofield's got the trade article in case they trade, and sometimes it's not even worth it, because if they trade like they did last year,
it's not worth it. It's like 30 seconds.
Yeah. You might as well, honestly, Dave, you should just write the article that it's a trade down. If it's a trade up, screw it. Because
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Not on the show.
But that on the show.
Yeah, because it's not, we're going to be writing articles right on top of each other.
Yeah. So we have a process, and you got to try and figure out what's going on. But Dave, this was your idea. Why don't you explain it a little bit?
Yes, I have the cards. This is how it works. All right. Each of you guys are going to each get a card from each pile of a different scenario.
Okay.
Now, once you get it, then the rest of us will comment on it. Okay. This pile only has 3 options: trade up, trade down, or stay at 20. Okay. This pile is what you're taking position-wise. You have offensive tackle, you have center, you have cornerback, you have wide receiver, and you have not center, offensive tackle, wide receiver, or cornerback. Okay. So those are your options. So you're going to be given a scenario where the Steelers do one of these 3 things to do this type of player. If that's the case, who do you think that would be, or the reasoning or whatever behind it? Bryan, you want to go first?
Sure.
You're ready. So Bryan's scenario is the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to trade down in order to take a cornerback. Trade down for a cornerback.
Oh my goodness. That is
figures I pull what might be the least likely of all of them.
Yeah, because I wanted them to trade up for a cornerback. So I really like the idea of corners. I will tell you one guy that I think is actually going to drop would be Nate Wiggins. But there's a possibility that if they trade down, maybe not too far, but maybe they trade down 4 or 5 picks, maybe they could get Cooper DeJean. Sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and say that they get Cooper at a bargain at around 25.
Jeff, anything you want to say about that specific scenario?
He said the player I had in my mind, which was Wiggins. I don't know if Cooper DeJean's going to be available even at 20. If there's a team that values him, that thinks he's healthy, and after the fibula injury, he is 100%, and he's a versatile chess piece in the secondary. Some are comparing his skill set to kind of like a Minkah Fitzpatrick type. He might be gone. But Nate Wiggins is a player that the Steelers have shown interest in. He has a lot of speed, a lot of upside, a little rough around the edges, but he could be a guy that if you trade down, could be available. So I like that pick.
Super fast, right? He's super fast, but super
he's
thin.
A little small.
He's like 170.
Yeah. Well, he dropped a bunch of weight to run faster at the combine, and then he gained weight in order to lift more at his pro day.
That's the Jim Wexell theory.
Yes. Yeah. That was according to Roy Countryman who was on Steel City Insider. The other name I would throw out there would be Kool-Aid. McKinstry, I guess is the last name. See, Wiggins or Kool-Aid, I would be okay if the Steelers taking the first round. If they move back to do so to grab something else, that would be all right with me. To me, when it comes to Cooper DeJean, which I guess from learning from there, that's how you're supposed to say it. The question is, do you even classify him as a cornerback, or are you looking at him as safety? Right. That's the bigger issue more than anything else with me.
Could I say one thing? I think Kool-Aid's going to fall out of the first round.
Which he could.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Some people value him. Some people value him as like a mid-first rounder.
Some people look at him more than Wiggins.
Yeah.
The Wiggins. So I'm going to keep the position out for now, Jeff. I'll put it back in after another cycle because we don't get back to that. But I'm putting the scenario back in there to make it easier. So Jeff has to stay at 20.
All right.
What player would you like if you stay at 20? That's an offensive tackle.
Oh. Well, 20, see, this is tackle. To me, this is the Darnell Wright situation. You talked about this on Stat Geek, where everyone's like, "Oh, he'll be available. He'll be available." Everyone's thinking that Amarius Mims is going to be there. Yet, I wonder if he's going to get to 20. And so, if he doesn't get to 20, if they had to take a tackle, assuming if Mims isn't there, who is the player out of Oklahoma that is deemed more of a project? He's probably a second. Guyton. Yeah, there it is. Tyler Guyton. Yeah. So maybe that's a player that if you're staying at 20 and you have to go offensive tackle and you know that all the other tackles are going to be gone. We're talking about the high end, the 3 Fs, as Dave put it on the Source podcast the other day. If they're all gone, then I'd probably say that someone like Guyton makes sense. That's assuming that Mims, again, if he's the Darnell Wright of 2024, where everyone's like, he'll be there. And next thing you know, he goes way earlier than anyone expected. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Bryan, do you want to add anything to that before I do?
Yeah, you know what? I kind of think Jeff is absolutely correct here, but one of these guys are going to fall because when you get to think about this, when you get to Guyton, 5 other offensive tackles have to go. Yeah. Actually, no, I'm sorry, 6 other offensive tackles have got to go. So I'm thinking at this point that one of them is going to be there. And maybe one that falls, man, it would be crazy, but JC Latham could be there at 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a possibility that, I mean, and you run up, you run up and grab that guy. I really think you do. Man, if you get Fashanu, Fatanu, Alt, Fuaga, Mims, Latham, you've had a pretty good draft in the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, offensive tackle at 20, I'm looking at the most likely scenario would be Mims, but like Jeff said, unless it's the Darnell Wright scenario, or one of the ones ahead of him that dropped. To me, that's what I'm doing at tackle at 20. Grabbing someone who was available that you thought would probably go sooner than that, or that. To me, Guyton, he fits a different scenario that could maybe even come up, if you know what I mean.
I do.
So, are you guys ready to move to the next one? I guess this one's mine. This one's mine. All right. So I am going to, once again, it's trade down for not a center, tackle, wide receiver, or cornerback. I don't think he's going to take very long because to me, that trade down, that's Cooper DeJean in my eyes because I see him more as a safety in the Steelers system than a corner. That you could, if you traded down and still got him, that would be a player outside of those. But you could say maybe that's cheating because he could be a corner. Other than that, it would have to be the only other position I can think of that would really work would probably be if it was a defensive tackle that you traded down and someone that you didn't even know that you'd get at 20 and you traded down and they're still there. And you're like, okay, maybe we should just take this guy. But I couldn't even tell you who that would be for sure. So that's why I'm going with Cooper DeJean.
That's what I was going to say, because when you talk about those 4 positions that you said, not those positions, those are like the only positions where I know individual players because those are the biggest positions of need for the Steelers. So when you're talking about defensive line, I'm like, I don't know who those players are. There's that Sweat guy. What is his name? He was the one that got in trouble. Yeah. He got in trouble.
We got him in the 3rd round in our mock contest.
Wow. He fell that far, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Bryan, what about you? Anything?
All right, you know what? This is way off. This is not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
But
but it's what happened to us on Tuesday. That's what's crazy. We traded down and took Cooper DeJean.
So I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to throw a crazy one out there. Might as well. Michael Penix Jr.
Oh,
Did you
jeez.
trade down and then take kind of? I almost said, what if none of the quarterbacks
Take
is
a
there?
first
So,
round
we-
quarterback.
yeah, we ready to do this another time through?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Bryan, once again, it's stay at 20 for a wide receiver.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm Brian Thomas Jr. I would think that he would be there. I'm not completely certain, but he almost screams to me that that could be a proper place at 20 for him. I think I do not like the idea of Adonai Mitchell at 20. I would, if I'm taking a wide receiver and I'm trading down, maybe Mitchell, but there's some worry about him as far as being that guy that is there might be character concerns. I don't know. There might be prima donna issues that I'm reading. I might be way off, but I would go ahead and say Brian Thomas just screams 20.
Yeah, they're staying at 20, right? Like that's the
Yep,
guy who I
stay at
think
20.
would be there. I mean, you could talk about who's the South Carolina receiver that a lot of people have discussed.
Leggett.
We
Yeah,
took him as
but-
our second round
Right,
pick,
but
to be
he's
fair,
not
yeah.
considered a first round pick
Yeah.
by most standards, and he's really only had one really good season. So I was thinking what Brian said, to be honest with you.
Yep, exactly. That, to me, that's the name. If you want a wide receiver where you don't move, that's the
Yeah.
one I can think of. It would have to take somebody else falling, and to me, if someone else is falling, I don't know if they stay there.
Right.
Right. So,
Yeah.
Jeff, you ready for yours? Or
What's
did you want to say
Brian
something
gonna
else,
say?
Brian?
You know who's getting a lot of love right now that they're thinking he's going to be moving up? It's the kid from Georgia, Lad McConkey.
In first round, they're saying
Yeah.
he's first round talent now.
Yeah.
He is now being considered first round talent.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. You ready, Jeff?
Yes, let's do it.
There we go.
Trade
You
up.
get to trade up.
Yay.
You are trading up
For a non-wide receiver.
for a center.
Oh gosh, that's the worst.
That's the worst trade up. I don't think so. I have an answer for that one.
Well, man, like this is like the worst scenario, like trading up because you value. Well, I know what you're gonna say, Dave, because that was the pick in
Yeah.
our fans first. I'll let you talk about that. If they value Graham Barton the way that our sources said, and what others have echoed, which keep in mind for that stuff, folks. Like when we say these things, and then all of a sudden, a couple of days, weeks later, you hear other people like national pundits echoing the same thing. There's a reason. So they value Graham Barton. They don't want to potentially miss out on him. They don't want other teams that need a center to potentially trade up. Then that's who I'll go with. I just don't think that they will trade up to get a center. But Dave, who do you fancy that you would trade up for?
Mine's from Washington, Fautanu, that a lot of people have as a tackle. A lot of other people have talked about he's 5 position versatility. And then there's reports coming out there that there's a team that thinks he's the best center in the draft. I would not be shocked if that team is Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh, I think that's why they specifically brought him in to meet with him, was to see, is he an option at center? Now, doesn't mean that they would have to go there. Let's say they draft him, and then all of a sudden there's another center there at their next pick that they can grab. I don't think that's going to keep him from doing it, because I think he could also be an answer at tackle because he's that versatile. I know so many people were scared because, the Steelers, when you take those versatile people and then they don't put them in the right spot, and blah, 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 blah. My thing is, I don't think they were really as versatile as what other people said if they can't play more than one spot. That's just me. If Dan Moore Jr. can only play left tackle, that's not versatile. Okay.
Right.
So that's why I say that. Some people might not look at him as a center, but to me, that's the only scenario where you trade up for someone who could possibly be a center in my mind.
Gentlemen, let me ask you a question. And I'm not going off subject here, but I'm going to ask you, do you have a go-to list or a source for draft prospects? Because mine's CBS Sports. That's where I like to go.
I used to. I haven't looked at them all this year. That's the one I used to go to as well.
The reason I'm asking that, they have Fautanu as an interior offensive lineman, as the best IOL on the board, because I was looking for him at offensive tackle, and he is not there. And I think this is a recent change, because when I was looking earlier in the week or 2 weeks ago, he was an offensive tackle.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Because he really is, and it's where you project him. I mean, same thing. Look, Graham Barton, by a lot of people, is not. He played tackle for the last 3 years. 3 years, and he's a lot of places don't have him listed as a tackle. They have
CBS has him as a tackle,
but they have him as a tackle. But if you go to, I think, Pro Football Network, maybe they have him as an IOL, interior offensive lineman. And so
they have him as number 52.
Yeah, wow.
Overall.
See, that just goes to show you that these places really don't know. For example, this is why I say our listeners are so much more informed than these other places. Don't know if you guys listened to this on Tuesday night with our live mock draft, but I ran over last year's live mock draft. We took all the picks, and the Allen Robinson trade hadn't processed yet, so the Steelers hadn't traded back in the 7th round yet, but we still had 2 7th round picks. Every player we drafted in that mock draft simulation last year was drafted at pick 86 or higher. Every one of them, even the guys we were taking in the 200s, because our viewers know value, and that teams will value these players, even though the experts didn't value these players. I mean, my goodness, our final draft pick was Strange, out of the tight end out of Penn State. He went in the 2nd round, and we took him in the 7th because they didn't value him with these people that are evaluating draft prospects. So I think, so for you all out there listening, trust yourself. Trust yourself. You probably know better than what you realize. So you ready for me to do another one here? My turn?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. I got trade up again. And I got offensive tackle.
Oh,
to me, that's the one that's the easiest one for me. It's the other effing tackle. How do you say his name? I mess it up.
Fuaga?
From Oregon State.
Fuaga.
Fuaga. The big right tackle from Oregon State. If you want someone that's going to fit right where it is, fits right where you're going to want Broderick Jones to be playing eventually, and hopefully sooner than later, if that's the way it works out, and he's there and he starts to drop a little bit to where he's in range, trade up, go get him. I'd be shocked if he'd be there at 20. I don't think he's on the board at 20. If he is, you're going to hear me giggling like crazy because I'd be so happy. But to me, I would trade up to grab that guy if that's was the scenario that presented itself.
Now, let me ask you this before I give my thoughts. Dave, how high do you think they'd have to trade up to? Inside the top 10?
I don't think they want to give up that much to go that high. You start making calls when he's still available at 12 or 13.
He's not going to get past 13. I'll tell you that. It won't get to 15 either. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of salivating on him right now. Yeah.
He could go top 10, but I don't see the Steelers trying to move up that high to get him here because Marcon is opportunistic. He's going to wait to see which guy is falling. And if he goes that high, then which other offensive lineman could potentially fall? Then maybe that brings in the tackle from Penn State would come into play in a similar scenario.
Yeah.
So.
Well, if I'm giving my thoughts, I don't see the Steelers going that far up. I could see them doing a duplicate of 2023, trading in front of the Cincinnati Bengals with the Jacksonville Jaguars and taking Amarius Mims because I think they really like Mims. They like the Georgia connection. They like his long-term future. Broderick Jones is still there for 2024. They have their tackles if they want to have them the way that they are. Gives Mims a chance to kind of get acclimated. And they would also screw over a division rival. So I could see that. That's a trade up, but it's not like a drastic trade up. So I could see that move, and I think they do like Mims. I think they like him a lot. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah, I really love that idea, just going up a wee little bit. They only went up 3 spots last year. I could see them doing the they would have to do the same thing, go up 3 spots, go to number 17 to get there and do it. Yeah, I actually think that is an absolute possibility. I like that. I would love to have a guy like Fuaga. If I'm trading up, I think I'm trading up for a different position though.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Now, I could pull another one, or I think the best way to finish this up would be to ask you guys, is there a scenario we did not bring up that you would specifically like to say because you have somebody in mind?
Jeff and I have the same one, I think.
We do?
I would think. I would think. If I'm trading up, there's 2 guys that I'm trading up for, but the one guy that I'm definitely trading up for, if I really want that cornerback, man, I want Quinyon Mitchell.
That's my scenario as well.
Toledo.
Yep. Trade up, Quinyon Mitchell.
So, Jeff, if I was wrong, I'm sorry.
No, I didn't even think about it. My perfect scenario is to trade down. Trade down a few spots, get your center. Maybe it's a Graham Barton or a Zach Frazier at the tail end of round 1, garner another second round pick. Now, all of a sudden on day 2, you can go to work. 4 picks in rounds 2 and 3 combined. That's where you can really add some talent. And there's a lot of depth within that range of positions that they still want to target. I'm kind of with Dave with, unless a tackle falls to them, I don't think they're really going after tackles. They're looking to fix other issues. So cornerback, wide receiver, definitely still looking on the defensive front. I don't think people are talking enough about defensive line, not in round 1, but they do need
day 2. I think that's a big possibility.
So if they trade back, get another second round pick
or third,
or third, still get the center that they covet. To me, that's a perfect scenario. Perfect scenario. Good, Brian.
How low does Rome Odunze have to fall for you to just abandon some things? And
if he sniffs, not nearly as far as he's going.
I get it.
I don't think he can fall far enough for them to.
If he sniffs 10, the Steelers should be putting in calls.
I won't like it that they have to give up that much of their assets to go get him, but I'm actually hoping he goes extremely early, so it's just kind of off the table, because I think it would really hinder what they want to do or what they need to do in this draft if they move up high enough to get him, because I think you would have to go to 10.
Well, what did they have to give up when they traded up to 9 to get Devin Bush in 2019? They traded up to
10.
Oh,
they traded up to 10 for Devin Bush. They gave up their first round pick, their second round pick, and the next year's third round pick.
Right. So if you were to do something similar, now all of a sudden you're getting a wide receiver in round 1. You have no pick in round
2 and a 4 this year.
You're picking out. You have no second round pick and 2 third round picks. You haven't addressed center. You haven't addressed cornerback. Yeah, right. Like, so, Rome Odunze, if he falls that far and they make that trade, I'm not going to be pissed because I think he's that good. But still, he better be that difference maker from day 1.
Unless they get a bargain deal and they can move up and get him and keep their 2 and only have to give up one of their 3s.
Maybe.
But that would I wouldn't take that if I was a team that's that high.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
I to me, that's one of those that's a dream that I hope is squashed early. So like if he goes 5 or 6, that's when Steelers fans can say, they really couldn't go that high to get him.
Right.
So then if he goes 14, they're like, oh, why didn't they pull the trigger? Why'd they wait so long? Why'd they wait for one more pick? I'd rather just kind of get squashed.
All right. Good stuff. This was fun. I like these scenarios. This is a good kind of get your mind right before the draft, because again, next week, Thursday, the first day of the draft, we're going to be doing a live stream. There will be no Steelers preview. And then the 3 of us will be wrapping up the day 1 pick. But whoever the Steelers pick, whatever they do, we'll have you covered right here. But let's finish up with some trivia. Brian, do you have trivia?
Yes, I do. It's a fun one. So we're going to play the name game here. And the first name game we're going to play is going to be first names. And since 1969, there were 3 draft picks, 3 first names that were drafted in the first round by the Pittsburgh Steelers more than once. Who are they?
Okay. We'll say that again.
First names in the first names in the first round since 1969. Double first names. Who would be those double first names? Excuse me. I said 3. There's 2.
Okay.
Double first names.
Yep.
Since when?
1969.
1969.
So you mean 2 different people had the same first name, or someone had a double first name? What?
Have the same first name.
2 different ones have the same first name.
Actually, it is 3 because it is. I'm sorry, it's 3 because one is shortened and one is. I mean, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't screwing up here. It's 3 since 1969.
So just the first name is the same.
First name is the same. And there's a possibility.
I don't think it's Franco. Well, wait, it could be. Wasn't there also a Frank? And like,
no.
In back-to-back years, a Frank and Franco?
You said,
Frank Lewis and Franco, yes.
But you said offensive line, right?
No.
First-round draft pick.
And there's a possibility this year that it could be added. One of these could go up to 3.
Amarius.
Yeah, they've never drafted an Amarius at all.
Amarius.
I'm just gonna start naming weird names.
I don't think it's Lewis. Lewis Lips.
Troy.
Troy. I don't think there's more than one Troy.
Graham. Jackson.
It is Troy.
Yeah.
Troy Polamalu in 2003.
Yeah.
And in 1999, Troy Edwards. And it could be a third Troy if you get.
I would take that. I would take that.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's the 2 other ones.
There's 2 other names.
1980 and 1995 would be one.
95. That was Mark Malone and Mark Bruner.
Malone and Mark Bruner. Yeah.
Yes. Because Malone was 80 and Bruner was 95. Yep. Oh, I should have known that one.
And the other one you guys aren't going to get.
Probably.
David DeCastro.
Dave. There were, yeah.
In 2012.
Back in like the 70s.
And Dave Brown, who is actually in the Seahawks Ring of Honor.
Because you've talked about him in the past.
Yeah, they lost him in the supplemental draft.
Yeah.
Not the supplemental draft, the expansion draft.
Yeah.
So if we do the same thing with last names, there is one last name that has been picked in the first round by the Steelers since the 1980s 3 times.
I know what it is because it's at least twice.
So
wait.
There's 4 other multiples.
Yeah, because you've got 2 Harrises.
2 Harrises.
You've got at least 2 Jones in Broderick and Jarvis.
Yes.
Is there a third Jones?
Yes, there is.
Sorry, I jumped in, Jeff. I was excited that I did that.
1988 Aaron Jones.
Okay.
Which I wish they would have taken Ironhead Hayward instead in that draft. And they could have. One that you will not get would be Dan Edwards in 1948 and Troy Edwards in 1999.
Okay.
And so I believe you had 4 of them. You're missing one.
But the same last name?
Same last name.
Trying to think of common last names.
Shiner. First name Dick.
No.
I know there was Charles Johnson. Was there another Johnson that was in the first round?
Yes, there was.
There was? I just was thinking of a common last name.
1978, a very good corner for that team, Ron Johnson.
Oh, Ron. Okay. Yep. I should have remembered that, but
that's my trivia.
All right. All right, Dave, your turn.
All right, I had a bunch of different trivias I could have gone with tonight, so I have multiple ones in my back pocket. But I hate to do this. I'm going to kind of be in the same line as Bryan. I'm doing the name game.
Oh gosh.
Okay, because but Bryan loves his middle names. Okay, like Jefferson Bartholomew Hartman.
Yeah,
which is not really his name. It's
No.
Jeffrey Michael Hartman.
That is correct.
Right? You share a middle name with a Steelers first-round draft pick. And I'm only going back through the Kevin Colbert era. I'm talking first-round picks. You share a middle name with the Steelers first-round draft pick. You know who that is?
First-round draft pick?
First-round draft pick of the
middle
Steelers.
Name Michael?
In the Colbert era.
Plexico Michael Bird.
Oh.
I'm not going to say what the real answers are because when you're wrong, because that could be an answer later.
I think. Can I venture a guess?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be Jeff to answer this.
I'm going to go ahead and say it's David Michael DeCastro.
It is David Michael DeCastro.
Yeah.
It is David Michael DeCastro. So that's, some of them are easy and more common names. So I'm going to give you the middle name of a player, first-round draft pick in the Kevin Colbert era. See if you can figure out who it is. One of my favorite ones, Elijah Wan.
Oh.
A first-round Steelers draft. Now, this is according to Pro Football Reference. If they have it wrong, I can't help it.
I've heard this.
First-round pick.
Mm-hmm. His middle name is Elijah Wan. We have lots of dead air going on.
I think I know.
Okay,
but I'm going to let Jeff go.
No, I don't know. Just guess. Someone.
Rashard Mendenhall?
No, the answer is actually...
It's Cam Hayward.
No, that's Phillips.
Okay.
Because I thought you knew that one. That's why I didn't use that one. It's actually Mike Tomlin's first draft pick.
Oh, Lawrence Timmons.
Lawrence Elijah Wan Timmons. Okay. Here's another one. Dean. Middle name Dean. This is Bryan. This was supposed to be your trivia, but I thought maybe you could do this. You're taking good shots though.
Heath Dean Miller. No,
because his middle name is Heath.
Oh, that's right. Isn't it David Heath Miller? Or...
No. They had a TV show about him. His name is Earl.
Oh,
Earl Heath Miller.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Dean.
Plexico Dean Burris.
You ready? How about Ryan Dean Shazier?
Oh.
Ryan Dean Shazier.
Okay.
Let's go Antonio.
It's not Antonio.
Take a shot.
No. San Antonio.
No.
Is that what you said, Bryan?
Yeah,
Antonio.
Come on, Jeff. Take a shot.
Take a shot? Is that a hint
of
some kind?
Come on.
Is this a curious case?
No. No.
Terrell.
His middle name is Terrell. It's
I know.
Terrell.
I know it's Fedarius.
Come on, Jeff. What have you been guessing every other time?
Dick Shiner.
That's why I picked this one because I thought you would get it right.
What is the name again? Antonio?
Yeah.
Plexico Burris, Jeff.
Plexico
Antonio Burris. I was doing this so you could get it right, Jeff. You would listen.
You should take a shot. You should don't shoot yourself in the leg.
Yeah. Okay. How about Tyrone? I'm not going to let it take a lot of time. That would be one.
Jarvis Jones.
That's a good guess, but it's actually already Tyrone Burns.
I only think of Tyrone Carter for some reason. Number 23.
Final question. In back-to-back years, in the first round of the Kevin Colbert era, the Steelers took two players that had very similar middle names. One was Jamal and one was Jamel.
Oh my gosh.
We had a middle name of Jamal and a middle name of Jamel in back-to-back years.
First round picks.
I'll even tell you this. Mike Tomlin era.
It was the Mike Tomlin era?
Yeah.
Then
Gavin Anthony keeps guessing Mike Wallace. He was not a first round pick, Gavin.
I think I know this.
Okay.
I'm going to guess Richard Mendenhall and Evander Ziggy Hood.
That is correct. Richard, Jamal Mendenhall, and Ziggy Jamel, two different words. So I guess technically has two middle names. Hood. And I'm done.
There you go. Good job. Good work. A lot of names. Yeah. I was gonna say when you said Antonio, I was like, well, maybe we'll just joke around and say it was Ben Roethlisberger's middle name. But we say his middle name so many times.
Yeah.
All right.
Trent Watt.
All right, let's do some final thoughts. Bryan, go ahead.
All right. I love that so much. My final thought is you never know who the Steelers are going to go with. I wanted to title this show tonight, What You Know This Week, Forget About for Next Week, because everything might change. We just talked about Artie Dean Burns or whatever Artie's middle name was. We just talked about him. I remember he popped up maybe on Tuesday night. We started hearing his name on Tuesday. That's when we were doing Facebook live chats, and Jeff Hartman was doing a Facebook live chat. And I was in there just trying to throw stuff in, seeing if he would mention my name, and he snubbed me completely, even though I was a colleague. But that's when Artie Burns popped up. And, it didn't pop up there. It was starting to pop up everywhere. Terrell Edmonds is another one. Old Fedarius didn't start showing up until like Wednesday morning in rumors. So it's really funny because this can take a turn really quick. Your mock drafts now don't mean anything in 7 days from now. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Dave, final thoughts.
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes I think back to where I was when I heard some of these draft picks, and a number of them in the first round, I was listening on Steelers Nation radio while putting my kids to bed. I remember, I think it even might have been Tim Benz, who does his Breakfast with Ben podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network, by the way, that it was him or someone similar, and it was that Artie Burns draft. And as soon as William Jackson threw it, they're like, well, what are the Steelers going to do? Don't tell me this is going to be Artie Burns now. And then boom, it was Artie Burns. And that's the first I'd even heard of Artie Burns, really, when he said that, because I wasn't into it quite as much back then, because that was before I was part of this team. But hey, I'm just excited that we're a week away. We're going to be watching the draft at this time. 1 week from now, we will be able to have new members of the Pittsburgh Steelers to talk about, right around 7. Who knows if that's somebody they pick within the next 10 days is when we're going to be dealing with all this. This is good. This is fun. I'm just happy and blessed that I get to talk about this. I'm ever thankful. Got to celebrate another trip around the sun today. It's just been a nice overall day and time, and I'm glad that I get to spend it with you guys. Bring on next week.
Whoa.
Bryan Davis didn't remember your birthday?
I guess he didn't.
Oh
my goodness.
A little earlier, guys.
I never remember
my candles.
I never remember birthdays, so I'm off the hook. Bryan's the one that remembers birthdays all the time.
Yeah.
I can't do this, Bryan. It's awful. You're awful.
David Warren Schofield.
I was just, yeah.
Gosh, I've
Gosh,
wow,
Bryan, that's awful, dude.
I know. I'm ashamed.
I can barely remember my kids' birthdays, so I don't expect to remember Dave's birthday.
I have we make a family calendar for my extended family on my side. It's our countdown to our vacation together, but we put everyone's birthdays on there so that way we can't forget everybody's.
Now, Jeff's is what, February 20th?
Yeah, that's right.
And Bryan's is December 3rd.
3rd, yeah. And I didn't know David Warren.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Well, happy birthday, Dave. That's my final
44,
thoughts.
right?
I just didn't. No.
No, 46.
No,
You're 1978.
Christian Kuntz.
What's that?
Christian Kuntz, right?
Oh, you're 46?
Yeah, isn't he 46?
Christian Kuntz. Yeah, 78. Yeah.
No, okay, I was like 78. He's not 78. He's 46.
Not that old yet.
Well,
Sorry
happy birthday, Dave. I hope
thanks.
you had a good birthday. And yeah, I apologize for Bryan.
I didn't realize.
Yeah, I take responsibility.
I've been so busy today. I just thought I thought you guys knew. That's why I kept pushing our time back tonight. I'm sorry.
Yes, I will take full blame because Jeff doesn't care about anybody enough to remember their birthday. So
I mean, no, like I said, not even my kids. I mean, don't feel slighted. I don't even know their
Because you have too many of them to remember.
Yeah, there's 5 of them. How the hell am I supposed to remember that? My wife just says, "Hey, don't forget tomorrow's their birthday." Oh, okay, thanks.
it's like, oh crap.
But Ben Roethlisberger was born on March 3rd in 1982.
And then Terry Bradshaw is September 2nd. I was just saying.
All right, this has been a fun show. We are going to apologize to Dave when we're supposed to get off here. In the meantime, we'll be back next Thursday with that live stream all about the NFL draft. It's going to be a lot of fun. You get to see behind closed doors with the Steel Curtain Network. It should be a lot of fun for Bryan and Dave. We thank you all for watching. Dave, why don't you send us out like you always do?
Hey.
We'll see you next week. Go Steelers.